Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the news behind the news of Raf Kantaf on Mix 94.7 FM. And thank you for joining me on today's program. Coming to the stage is none other than give it up for Mr. Erno Young York. Good afternoon, and what's up, man?
All right, man, cool.
To give you that intro, because, you got a show business master on the show, so.
Well, that was a good intro. A very good intro.
But, one of the things I definitely have to say is thanks for being on the program. Mm-hmm. It's good to have you, especially, even as we spoke, you really threw me off a bit because I swear it was your father talking to me.
Everybody
so,
that problem.
Shout out to Doug for those strong York jeans. Because you can't hide down to the voice itself. But let's get into, your story, basically, you can tell us a bit about yourself and we move on from there.
Well, Erno, young York then, according to Ralph. Started out very young. I think it was the age of 7. My dad decided to let me play steel pan on his annual Christmas concert. At that time, the show was very young, and so was I. And I think it was from that moment I realized that entertainment is what I wanted to do. So from there, he branched me off into calypso, which he also sang and still sings. And I've been victorious in that for 7 years as a junior calypso king consecutively. So
yeah?
Yes, 7 years back to back.
Did you used to write your own as well?
I used to put in, I would say, well, Daddy, I want to sing about this. And then he will go and write, So he was definitely the producer and arranger for the span of my career.
Gotcha.
And again, that motivated me to continue because I didn't want to just do calypso alone. Because when I was young, calypso was cool. But then you're in school and then everybody talking about the rappers and the dancehall artists and the R&B singers.
And now it's soca.
So I decided to really pursue it and do it.
Yeah.
And get into it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So at that point, let's say, when you realize that music is what you wanted to do, you never felt like you was missing out on childhood or anything. Like, did you feel a way that, hey, you gotta always be at practice? Did you feel like maybe your dad pushing you too much? How was that like?
Well, not that he was pushing me too much because he saw the potential in me to become something great. So his drive behind pushing me was very dominant, but not forceful. For me, growing up, yes, there was times where I felt like I could have been a kid more, definitely. But I did become a kid more, actually. But to say I missed out on childhood, I wouldn't say so much because I still got to do a lot of things, still get to, hang out and do what kids do.
Yeah.
So
you didn't have no MJ moment, basically.
No, I didn't really have no MJ moment.
Cool.
Like
which is good, of course.
Yeah. The only thing was in calypso, I didn't want to stay to just calypso.
Gotcha.
That was the only close to MJ moment, but everything else was cool.
Well, what was it like? Still figuring out your path in terms of, what variations of instruments do you play, and what do you say is your marker?
Well, okay, after the steel pan, I started to play drums. And then I also play bass guitar, piano, the regular guitar, and keyboards. But for me, I say there's a soca niche. I was staying in the show. I did try rapping and all that stuff, but I was just to prove that I can do it, you know what I mean?
It wasn't like it was
my main thing.
Yeah.
So it was based around, I would say my genre is based around soca, reggae, now trying some Afro beats, but islandish stuff.
Yeah, I got you. So, considering all of that, in your reflection and thinking about moving ahead, what have been the main things that you've learned, you would say, that your experiences have taught you about music, especially here on, doing it here on St. Martin, but also the possibilities to go further?
Well, what I learned here, because now I began to perform for the tourists. So now I become naturally a tourist ambassador, so to speak, carrying on the legacy of my father and Chester York, of course, who brought Steel Pan to St. Martin, which is Dow's father, my grandfather. And I learned a lot. And I learned that there's no barrier you could set. I mean, it's up to you how far you want to do this thing. Because in the tourist industry, it's like on-the-job training. We have to do funk, we have to do jazz, we have to do soul, we have to do pop. You know, people will request songs and I will be like, who sang that? You know, then you learn about the Michael Jacksons and the James Browns and the Princes, and that pretty much from that, in that span of performing for tourists and at such a young age is where you learn where you want to go. It will be totally up to you. You know?
So during the I know that a few carnival seasons, you put out some music, you performed, and I think you did a soca rumble, one or two?
I did one soca rumble, if I can remember, one soca rumble, or two. One or two, I can't really remember right now.
But even with that, and looking at the carnival season, you know, which came back after 2 years, what would you say about basically, you know, looking at the performances that have taken place, but also in your sense, where do you see yourself in the picture?
Well, I see myself at that time, at the time Soca Rumble came, I was already off of the scene in terms of competing. Because after that whole 6 years of Calypso winning and going to St. Kitts, winning 3 times consecutively again, I was kind of out of the competing thing. I did go into Calypso a year, but I didn't have a good second song. I had a very strong first song, you know, and I neglected the second song. But I see myself, well, according to the people, they see me as something big, because I remember when I was going into the Soca Rumble, it was like, even though they had a king, everybody talking about me, Young Doe in this thing, and Young Doe, and we have to beat Young Doe, and I'm like, yo, I ain't even the king, you know? So I guess I'm seen and respected as, you know, a pioneer or a legendary figure in the St. Martin music scene.
Okay. So considering that, then, what level of work or where do you see yourself in terms of future planning? You know, again, one of the things that I particularly look at as St. Martin, but even in general, is that St. Martin has a lot of talent. Brilliant folks, your whole family, basically, don't you, brother, etc. But I feel like there's still a lot more room to go further, you know, overseas and so forth. So, in your respective work, you know, what has gone into, you know, your creating that range, but also that this is planning for the future, you know, to go bigger. If indeed music is what you know want to do for the rest of your life.
Well, for the future, I mean, I have a talent. I don't think that people... Is a lot of variations to my talent. It's just not the singer. There's Erno the performer. There's Erno the MC. There's Erno the writer. Because this song, Christmas Morning in St. Martin, that song was made by me. I arranged that song.
Really?
Yes. I'm also singing on the chorus of that song. And a lot of people, it's still...
That's history. Yeah. I mean, that's news to me, sorry.
And that's why now that's why you see I step back, and this year Carnival I was not much involved. Ever since the band clash, I have not set foot in the village. A lot of people don't believe that because they think this is my thing, and oh God, he inside drinking and eating. But this year I decided to just pull off and leave Carnival miss me for a while, because now I plan to go real hard at it, especially at producing and writing for people.
Okay.
So that's where I see myself in the future, as a person that contributed so much to the music scene here. And I would say regional, because I've been to Trinidad. A lot of people don't know this. I met Olatunji before he had the locks. Me and Olatunji shook hands in Trinidad, and he was actually telling me, wonderful performance. Where you from? You know? So I'm going into the producing area real hard and real dedicated to that.
So you see yourself as basically sharpening artists?
Definitely.
Label type of mode, or simply...
I would go to the label category, yes, creeping, going up. I have my son. He's ready to sing now. I was going to bring him on a program, but he was
How old is he?
9.
Okay.
You know, I have 2. I think the 2 of them
And
are
something he wants to do,
yeah.
you say?
I'm pushing him because he come to me and said, "Daddy, I want to rap." No, this is where it starts. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're rapping, you know, it's not just the flow, but it's writing, etc.
Writing, the whole
producing,
image.
yeah.
And I think he's very young to say what he wants to do. I think he still has to explore, you know, the field like I did, and then. But for now, you know, rapping catches his eye. But I feel if he gets into the performing and thing, he will say, "Well, you know what? I'll do a soca, or I'll do a Afrobeat or something." You know. So that's where I see it going in that direction of me bringing out artists. I want to start a company. I can't talk too much about it, but
That's
it's
cool.
in the works.
Yeah, that's cool. No, it's good that you said that because you know, because your options are you could go full on with yourself as the artist, but you know, you're taking on a different role, but you know, it's a tougher hat to wear, you know, because producing may seem cool in terms of maybe just making music and stuff, but you know, when you look at I think Didi is maybe not the best example because
Perfect example.
I mean, to an extent, I guess a little personal issue with Didi is, you know, some of his artists. Well, a good bit has flopped eventually.
Yes.
But I think like a Jermaine Dupri, for example, or a Pharrell, you know what I mean?
Cool.
Or Kanye, you know.
And
in
don't
that
forget-
sense. I mean, I respect Didi, but you
Yeah.
know, the fact of his artists, you know,
Yeah. A lot of
going
his
south
artists
is not,
flop, correct. But the brand, the Didi brand.
yeah.
So this is another thing I plan on working your brand. And I always have this talk with my uncle, Fred, who is very instrumental in pushing his nephews to do music because he sees the talent in us as well. And he's been around Bad Boys Band, you know, Mr. Icon Foundation. You know, I could say my uncles and my father really paved the way for us. Like, look, the wall is basically you guys own what you want to do, you know. So the brand is very important. At the end of the day, Didi did not, maybe all of his artists did not really pull through, but people still respect that Didi brand. Then you have Dr. Dre. I also look up to Dre.
Yeah.
Timbaland.
Yeah.
And there's nothing but hits. You're gonna lose some. You're gonna put out some whack stuff, but you're gonna put out some great stuff.
Yeah.
Timbaland, especially, you know, Justin Timberlake. I mean, he took somebody who's not really from our culture and just make them fit in our culture so perfectly.
Mainstream, basically.
Yeah, understand?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And another element of that too is, even as you say it, looking to go further into the business of show business or entertainment is networking.
Very important.
And I guess of course it helps that you know, even as a topic going further. I mean, respectfully, I also have to share that your dad as well, you know, has performed internationally as well, and different artists in St. Martin. And like I said, it's just there's room for many more. But on that end of networking, connecting with even whether it's regional or international producers and stuff, what's your process of, you know, being able to expand your reach?
well, first of all, I have to really up my game on the social media platforms. I have a page right now, but it's basically not functioning because I'm very particular now with content. Seeing you could call it the competition out there. Everybody's bringing their A game. It's not something where you can just put up a video now and it gonna work. So I'm really strategizing from the back. I had a Grand Prime TV back in the day. Everybody was crazy about that.
Yes, I remember
You
seeing
see,
that.
even
Yeah.
Rafi.
Yeah.
And I remember Andrew Dick. I remember even Super Kid telling me, "Yo, whatever you're doing on that Facebook there, keep doing it." And I kind of fell off of that for a little bit because you're young, you get distracted. So now it's just strategizing, proper planning, and then I can use that medium to connect and network with a lot of people. I have lots of numbers. The more and more I play out at gigs, we meet people. And it's just a matter of time before those networks realize who they're really in contact with.
Yeah.
Once the content starts.
And the thing is, you never know who you meet, and that's having worked in a hotel just for 1 year, I've honestly been amazed at some of the people who come through St.
I'm
Martin.
telling you.
So I can imagine for you guys who are definitely out there and people want to reach out to you, maybe take a picture,
Exactly.
even speak to you, you know, all sorts of influencers, let's say, you know, could reach out to you and get in contact with you. That in itself can lead to more open doors.
I remember playing on the harbor, and this is why I give Steel Pan a big respect. A lot of musicians in St. Martin came from the steel pan realm. We have Buff Cornelius Rumo. He was a steel band player. Buff could have played any pan, but his pan was the cellos. Then we have Nasio, who now plays with Sweet Pan. He came off a Dow branch. And then you have my brother, you have myself, you know, and so much more, you know. And when I was playing on the harbor, I remember the big manager for Carnival, the Carnival Cruise Line, and he gave me his card, and he said, you need to call this number. and that just showed me, like, am I doing something great that I don't even know? You know, sometimes I don't even know how talented, you know, because I try not to boast. And it always appears as boasting, but one is just pushing themselves.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, like, you need to push yourself.
In St. Martin, we have a thing where if you post, you know, your achievements, it's seen as bragging. No. I'm consistently reminding everybody that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. This is me. Hire me. You know, you can call me for this. Yeah, you can call me for that.
I get what you're saying, and that is where you, especially as an artist or a producer, but the entity, need to move past the fray and the noise, because at the end of the day, you're in the field, you know, and no one is going to do it for you. So listen, at the end of when we look at, for example, McDonald's, one of the biggest fast food chains in the world. They still post almost daily their stuff on social media, you know. So it's like you need to always be out there. That's part of remaining relevant. To this day, look at now, for example, Rihanna, which is, she don't necessarily need to make music anymore. No, but she's still out there, the fashion show, even while pregnant with the fashion shows and whatever else.
She's staying relevant.
Exactly,
and that's what I'm basically doing. And big respect to all the musicians and artists that are out there posting and letting us know where they're at performing, because basically that's the network grounds right there. You have to know that, for example, Fred is playing at Rainbow Cafe, and then Leo is playing at Sandbar, or Young Doe is playing at. If we don't do that, we're just going to be looked at as, okay, just another musician. And which leads me to...
just a player.
Everybody is so... I love Carnival. It's part of my history. I will always love it and be a part of it. Even when I'm not in it, I'm a part of it. Because I'm home for Bacchanal Sunday and I've seen all the videos. I'm home for Flag Fest and it's like a deal. Everybody, Erno. But don't get caught up in just Carnival. And I see a lot of people do that. Only for Carnival they hype. And then for the rest of the year, we ain't hearing about them again. Only for Carnival, you such a big star. And
you got to push. I think a good example of that is Lil Wayne. Yeah, remember that time when Lil Wayne was dropping those mixtapes like crazy? And then to the point where when he dropped the Carter Tree and then was the remix king, you know? As long as if Wayne hopped on your track, that was it. It became his. But, you know, he had to put in a great level of work to be able to be that big name.
Correct.
So I get what you're saying, because it can be seasonal. Yeah.
So that's my message to all the upcoming aspiring musicians and artists. Don't get caught up in Carnival alone. Don't be a Carnival star. Be a year-round star. You know, King James is a perfect example of a year-round star. You know, and I really truly believe that he did have the crown this year, but we ain't gonna get into those politics. Shout out to Olivia as well. It feels good to see a female of her caliber. She's a historian and she won. But King James, right now, I could say on St. Martin, he is carrying the torch musically for St. Martin. We have to give Jack his jacket. King Kimbe as well, my cousin. Kimbe is a DJ, but he is a whole package. He could be a DJ, he could be a comedian, and he still could be a star year round, and that's important.
Yeah. So then my final question to you is, more so, what would you say to, aspiring or up-and-coming, artists, things to look out for and consider?
Well, when you're coming up in the game, it's a competition, but it's a friendly competition. When I look at Tupac and Biggie in the situation and how far things could get, it doesn't necessarily, controversy sells, but it doesn't have to reach that level. But it's competitive, and we can be competitive without being personal, My advice is to be consistent and plan your stuff, but don't procrastinate. You have an idea, jump on it. Be very discreet before you come out with something. And, once it reaches 80%, then you start to push it and talk about it. But be consistent. You're going to fall sometimes, but you're going to win a lot of times. It's just to get your name out there. That's why I'm here on the program. You see me in the newspaper. You see me performing with my brother. It's staying relevant and staying consistent. You have to stay in the people's mind and thoughts. So just push it, and you can do it. I have to commend you because, we have this joke, Mr. Ralph Cantav, you have the floor. But you are inspiration to me, myself, as a young person, seeing you in the press briefings and, that's a whole different field, but you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Appreciate it.
You understand? You're consistent. I always see you. So that's how we're supposed to be.
Yeah, indeed. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Thanks so much for that advice, because for me, I always like to ensure that, the young folks out there could, get that motivation they need. Mm-hmm. So thanks so much for coming, and wish you much success in all your work.
Thanks, man. Pleasure to be here anytime.
Great.
All right.
All right, to our listeners and viewers as well, thank you for joining us on today's program, and do take care.